So I'm recording on my balcony because I'm doing laundry inside and the machine's loud. And as I promised, a meet recap. I grabbed some clips from the live stream, so I'm going to put them together so you can see all 9 lifts. I went 9 for 9 for the first time. I do think I could have been more aggressive with my attempts, but since it was my first meet back in almost 2 years, I kind of wanted to build some more confidence on the platform. And I've been in those situations where you almost get a lift, but maybe you just pick one attempt too aggressive. Like you could have done the one under it easily, but then you go a little bit beyond and then you miss it, and then you're stuck with a lower total and then you're sad. So I didn't want to risk that. I weighed in at 57.0 kilos with my bra and underwear on. So completely, like, that was a perfect weigh-in. I don't know how I did it because the week before I was on my period. The period gods let me have my period a few days early. So it was a couple days early every month for the last few months, leading to getting it Tuesday the week of. So I was dealing with bloat, and I was just thankful to not have to worry about the period happening the day of, as was projected when I first signed up for the meet. But the bloat leading up to it made it kind of confusing with how I should water load and water cut. I ended up water loading for a couple days, manipulated sodium also, and then the days before the weigh-in, I started to taper down on sodium and water. Nothing aggressive at all. I never felt dehydrated, but I do think the water manipulation helped me weigh in perfectly. And then I also made sure to avoid high fiber foods for a couple days, which I love my salads and I love vegetables. So I just kind of ate more nutrient dense food that was not as heavy for a couple days. And that led to a perfect weigh-in, which is really cool. And because I'm not super hung up on making a certain weight class, I wasn't that stressed over the weigh-in, but as a competitive person, I just, of course, wanted to make my weight class. And I do think the 57s are a more competitive category right now in the USAPL. They do tend to have a lot of really tough competition in the top maybe 20 to 30 athletes based off of the rankings on open powerlifting. So after this meet, I am ranked about top 20, about 19, I think, in the nation for this year, which I'm pretty excited about, but I don't think that I feel good enough to go to Raw Nationals just yet. That is something that I'd be interested in doing in the future, but I don't think I'd want to go until I feel absolutely ready, because it is really hard for me to take time off of work on a week that I desire, because I have to take weeks off like a year in advance. And this next year it's in Vegas, which is so close. It's way closer than Florida or Texas or Chicago. So I really want to go eventually, but I just don't know what my schedule will look like, and I do think that I could use more time to get better. So I'm super excited about how this meet went. I'm so happy with how I did, and that's rare for me to say because the last few meets I have won Best Lifter, I think in the last 3, but I haven't continued to PR my total, which is actually what I care about more. And of course, the competitive part of me is, wants to win, but I'm more interested in improving. So I think to me that's the biggest win, I have to say. And I lift really calmly because I don't know if it's just because I'm a quiet person or if working in retail has just sucked my soul and all I'm left is being calm. I don't know. But I do feel like, where was I going? I just kind of zoned out for a second, sorry. So, as I was saying, yes, I improved on all my lifts. The squat, I just made one small jump up from my previous total, so I went to 314. 314 is now my current squat PR. And then bench, I now bench 220, and those are both lifts that I made during practice. So during training, I already hit those numbers, so I knew those would be there the day of. And after a week of resting, pretty much leading up to the meet, I was ready. I felt like recovered. I felt like I had energy. Because the last month leading into the meet, I was training with the heaviest numbers I've ever hit in my life, and I was tired. And my job is super duper physical, so I was just like, I would be lifting at really crazy hours because it would take me a lot of energy to kind of like work my way up to being able to train after work and after not eating like all day because of work. And so I was tired for like a month, and then the week of the meet I started to feel better again. So I think we did the taper perfectly, peaked perfectly, and I feel like for the first time I'm actually a powerlifter, because usually the week before the meet I'm just super antsy and I just want to lift, and I hate rest days. So this time I was like, I'm ready to rest, but I don't know if that's just because I have a lot more systemic fatigue from life now. So squat opened at 286, then hit 303, which was pretty comfortable for me, and then finally 314. My last meet, I also opened at 286, and then I went up to 308 for a third attempt, and I made it. So opening a little bit lower is good because you can't decrease the weight if you don't make your first attempt. So always open with something comfortably so you for sure can stay in the meet. Bench, I also opened up with 198, which is what I opened up with last time, which was November of 2019. Second attempt, 209, just like last time again, and that one wasn't hard at all. And then I hit 220. I did get a little bit yanked out of position by my lift-off person, which they're all volunteers. The people doing the spotting, the loading, the judging, I believe they're all volunteers. And because it was a 2-day meet and it was 2 sessions each day, I think they really were trying to get as many volunteers as possible. And so some of them were a little bit new and untrained, and I was trying to copy Jen Thompson, which is like one of my mega, like I look up to her so much because she's mega strong. She's been doing this for years, and she's like a little bit older than me, and as I'm kind of aging in life, I'm looking more towards the people with longevity. I want to see what the person who's been doing this for 20 years is doing, not the person who's been doing it for like 2 or 3 years and is like going super duper hard, because I want to kind of, I'm aiming for like still doing this in my 40s and 50s. So she was saying if these spotters are doing a good job with like the lift-offs, because she's like the bench queen, then encourage them and be like, oh, you did great, do the same thing again for the second and third attempts. Because the first attempt is a good one to be like, oh, you know, this is how I want to lift off, you know, give it to me gently, like don't just dump the weight on, or I just need a little bit of a lift off, or I'll count to 3 or something like that. So the first 2 lift-offs from my lift-off guy were perfect. So the third attempt, I was like, okay, I'm going to be like totally, you know, try to relax him and be like, oh, you know, just do exactly what you did. And then he kind of like pulled the weight out a little bit more than the first couple times, and it kind of got me out of position. I still got the lift, the weight wasn't heavy, but I got one red light, the only red light I got for the whole meet, for one of my butt cheeks coming up. I think it was my left glute. Because I asked one of the judges right after because I wanted to know. So that was my only red light, but you only need 2 white lights to get the lift, and I did. And so I was really, really happy because I missed 220 my previous meet. And so I'll definitely be going for something over 2 plates, which is 225 next time. And moving on to deadlift. I opened with 308, which was a little bit heavier than my last meet, which was when my deadlifts were kind of just getting worse and worse. I switched to sumo, which if you've been following my training, you know, and it does feel a lot more comfortable because I finally figured out good technique for it. And then I did 325, which is something I've done on this balcony quite comfortably, just like right there. So I was pretty comfy with that. And because I lift on my balcony, I'm so used to putting the weight slowly down. So I think I was probably the only one at the meet who was like slowly putting their weight down, which is funny because that's kind of all I know how to do now. Like when I automatically go to doing a lift, that's how I do it. So we'll see how that goes, but I think as the weights get heavier, like 350 and beyond, I probably won't be doing that. Then again, lifting 350 on my balcony is also kind of scary, so I don't know. I don't know where this next training cycle or year will go. Last deadlift, 341. Very, very happy with this because I missed this twice in 2019, in July. That was my first meet of 2019, and it was 2 meets ago. And that was the meet, I think, where my deadlifts mega started to stall. So overall totaled 876 pounds. I believe it's in kilos, was it just under 400? So pretty close to the next milestone. And I PR'd my dots, which I think are the new way of calculating who wins a meet, is based off of a calculation with how much weight you lift and how much you weigh. And that was a PR as well, so I'm mega happy with this. I couldn't have asked for more. These were the numbers that I had in mind. I think I would like to be able to deadlift over 350 soon, so that'll be my next goal. And yeah, I'm just super excited to be back to training again, and it was so fun. The meet was run so well. The meet directors at Workout were amazing, just like always. The production of like the stage and how everything was laid out was super organized. Everything was on time. And I didn't notice any glitches as a lifter. There may have been like a couple technical things or things with like, I don't know, streaming or lighting, but it was perfect to me. The judges were awesome, and the volunteers were great. The audience was great. I didn't really invite people to watch me because it's on Livestream, and I think, you know, weekends are so precious. I don't want to be like, come watch me lift like for a total of less than 9 minutes, but it'll take 5 hours of your day. So I think I didn't have like a huge section in the crowd cheering for me, which is fine because I love lifting calmly, and I usually lift quietly in my living room. So it was great, and it was my first time on a live stream as well. And the people who did the commentary for the live stream, I think they did a great job. I believe they're called Two White Lights, and that's a really funny name because it's all you need. It's kind of like C's get degrees. It's like you just need 2 white lights. So I think they did a great job. They were way more kind to me than I think I deserve. They commented on my squat form, and it wasn't until they really pointed it out and me getting to see myself from like the audience perspective. I do squat very narrow stance, and that's just what's felt comfortable for me. I've noticed a lot of people who squat really heavy tend to have a wider stance, so I've tried during warm-ups to try to widen my stance out to see if that helps. But I like the narrow stance, it's comfy for me. So I'm going to stick with that. And they gave me really nice commentary on bench as well. And it was cool to see myself bench like on a stream because the different camera angles are not ones you usually get to see when you're in the audience or if you have someone record for you. So that was neat. And the deadlift, the first deadlift, they said that I like slowly put it down, but that's when the stream glitches and it looks like I just dropped it, because it's like one moment I'm standing and then the next moment the weight's on the ground. And they're like, yeah, and she calmly puts it down, and I'm like, that's so funny. Like if the whole like meet, that's when the glitch happens, is when I slowly put it down. But then the third attempt, they're like, and she walks off like all confident that she got all the white lights. it wasn't because I was confident, it was because I didn't know there were lights you could look for. Because the screens are like in front of the lifters, so the audience can see how the lifters are doing and how they're doing on time. But I didn't know to look there, so I just was like, oh, I'm done with my meet, walked away. And it was such a great experience, and I'm so happy that I got to do it. So thank you for following along. I think this will be the end of the Drip Diaries series for now. And yeah, enjoy the live stream footage.
Experience doesn't run into the situation a lot. You have 1 minute to receive the command from the time that the platform is declared ready. So from the time that they tell you that the platform is ready, regardless of any adjustments you have to make, you have exactly 60 seconds to receive the command.
Yes. Yes, excellent explanation there, and that's important for people on the live stream to know exactly what the rules are. A lot of people get confused when you get to the live stream or you see it in meet, like, because it's something that it's a confusing thing to see. We got Michelle Lin attempting 130 kilos, 286 pounds, 57 kilo lifter, high bar squatter, very narrow stance. Excellent job. Olympic-esque on that one.
Absolutely. She burst through that sticking point that you see on high bar lifts a lot of the time, right in the middle with a lot of room left in the tank. Excited to see what she's going to lift today.
Yeah, I love that. I love that stance. Marissa Inda does a very good job with that really narrow stance. You see more females do it based on their leverages.
But you got to compete the way that you train and train the way that you compete. If that's the way you're most comfortable, then that's what you should bring to the table when it's time to play.
Absolutely. All right, Michelle Lin on the platform with her second squat attempt, 137.5 kilos, 303 pounds. High bar squat, very narrow stance.
And straight through that sticking point.
I love her squat.
That's an excellent squat. The form on that is impeccable. It's something you can maintain for a long period of time with no injury.
Yes, the narrow stance squat is probably my favorite discipline in powerlifting. I love the way it looks. She does a fantastic job because it's actually very difficult to get depth with that narrow stance.
Absolutely. Something underrated is the amount of flexibility and mobility it takes to reach the proper position for a squat in that.
A little inside baseball here.
There's actually some flavor.
I'm like, wow, this black coffee is sweet. We have Michelle Lin on the platform. I think I'm going to call her my favorite squatter so far because of that super narrow stance, a high bar stance, and she's able to get that depth. Oh, very, very nice job from Michelle Lin. 315 pounds. Controlled, looking great, excellent lift.
It's a huge milestone, and it speaks to the growth of the sport. Just 5-6 years ago, you would see maybe 1 or 2 women in the state squatting that much, and now at the state championships, you have. I count at least 4 women just in this first flight squatting 315 pounds.
Whenever you're squatting 300 pounds, male or female, you're turning some heads just in the... All right, Michelle Lin with our heaviest bench at 90 kilos.
It's going to be a 57 kilo lifter benching 90 kilos. That's 198.4 pounds. An incredible amount of weight. This kind of weight being moved makes you the strongest person in pretty much any commercial gym that you walk into.
Yeah, definitely. I'm very excited to see this.
This kind of strength on a bench press represents years of hard work, consistency, form refinement, diet. So much goes into it that you don't see here on the platform.
Looks like he has good control. Excellent job. That is a 3 white lights lift. Excellent, excellent job from Michelle Lin. That's a lot of weight to open up with. Made it look easy. I am very excited to see what her attempts are going forward.
Very impressive.
Yeah. We are going to see probably a little bit smaller jumps here with bench press.
This is going to be our last second attempt at bench press for this flight, and after that we're going to be getting into some of those very difficult lifts of this entire session that I was talking about earlier.
Yes, and also we're ending out here with a very good bench press. A 57 kilo lifter going over 200 pounds, 95 kilos. Her first bench press was excellent. I am very excited to see her second and third attempts. 5 kilo jump from her first. I think that's a perfect call. very smooth. Her bench is beautiful.
I like that. They like it too.
Judges agree. 3 by lights.
For a 209-pound bench with an excellent range of motion, an excellent pause, and again, a lot of room in the tank. We're going to see an amazing bench from her later. What do you think, Angela? Does she have 5 more kilos left on the tank on that?
I would make the jump. I would make the jump to 5 kilos. Everything looks pretty smooth. She's over 200 pounds on her bench press, so you don't have to be too conservative with that jump.
But clear she has a lot of strength in her arms with the range of motion and the way that her form is looking. She does have that in her, but again, it's a huge jump to make for such a light lifter.
Yes, a very wide grip and a short range of motion. Shorter range of motion means it has to be a little more technically sound.
Absolutely. It'll be interesting to see our coach's reasoning behind that, but let's take a look at Michelle's lift right now. 100 kilos on the bar, 220 pounds. And there you have it.
Wow, let's see what the judges say. 2 white lights. Excellent lift from Michelle Lin.
One of the best lifts you're going to see all day. One of the greatest benches you're going to see for sure. 100 kilos on the bar. A lifetime goal for many athletes.
Yeah, even the pound plate, even the collar, like it is such an important thing. I mean, training with a Texas power bar is almost like training with a deadlift bar. It's a power bar, but the collar's long enough where it feels like a deadlift bar. But what you're used to, that 20 kilo short collar, your deadlift's gonna be a whole lot better. We got a nice narrow stance from Michelle Lin. Sets herself up perfectly. That is an excellent opener. Oh, and she gently puts the weight down. Doesn't want to make too much noise for everyone here.
Michelle says if you're strong enough to pick it up, you're strong enough to put it back down.
Eccentric deadlift. She wanted a little hypertrophy work today.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Throw in an RDO for the folks at home.
Who knows what's going behind closed doors in the warm-up room? Might be supersetting that with another hamstring accessory. Maybe some front squats.
Platform is ready. What you got for us, Michelle?
Platform is ready for Michelle Lin. 147 kilos on the bar. 325 pounds. My mistake, people. Great hip hinge, really smooth lift. And the eccentric is also beautiful.
The judges like it too.
3 white lights. Very, very smooth lifting.
Right there, you guys. That's pretty much tough. That's a shame.
Michelle Lin looking to stay perfect on the day. 8 for 8. Very, very nicely executed lifts on all 3 of them. Squat, bench, and let's see this deadlift. Really like that narrow stance deadlift. Perfect hip hinge. Michelle knows what she is doing. Michelle's a great lifter. She knows exactly what she's doing. Excellent, excellent job.
Great job.
Doesn't even stick around to look for the lights. She knows she got it and she walks off confident.
Last